Hi, everyone. We are so glad that you're here with us today. I'm Beth Francesco, the Executive Director for the National Press Club Journalism Institute. We're the nonprofit affiliate of the National Press Club, and we proudly produce training to support journalists working in communities throughout the country. Our mission is to power journalism in the public interest. We are so grateful for your joining us today. Today, we're joined by Robb Montgomery, a former U.S. newspaper editor turned global storyteller and educator. He's generously volunteered to share his experience and expertise and advice on mobile journalism, or Mojo, with the Institute, and he's joining us from his studio in Berlin this morning. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. We have a live transcription option available during the program. If you're joining us on a desktop or laptop computer, you can enable this at any time by finding the live transcription button in the navigation menu. Just click Show Subtitle and closed captioning will begin. You can also disable this at any point by clicking Hide Subtitle. We'll be recording this program, and a link to the video will be sent to you after. So if you miss something, don't worry, you'll have a chance to catch it a second time. Highlights from the program will also appear on our website and in our newsletter with this video. And if you aren't already receiving the Institute's daily newsletter for journalists, you can subscribe now. We may be a little biased, but we think it's pretty terrific. This program is also designed to be interactive, and we hope you'll join with comments and lots of questions. Please share your questions anytime in the chat. We'll be monitoring them and responding as Robb goes through the program. I know he's eager to share tips on gear and his how-to knowledge and give you some inspiration, so we hope to see lots of questions. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Robb Montgomery.
Hello, welcome from Berlin. Nice to see you. Thanks so much, Holly. Congrats on getting the top job there at the Journalism Institute, National Press Club. I can't believe I started my journalism career in 1986 with this mobile journalism gear, which was completely analog. There's nothing digital. There's nothing automated about this. In fact, what the cool thing is that you can trip the shutter without any battery power whatsoever and document history. And then somewhere along the line, iPhone 1 came out, and I stood on a stage in Egypt. The day after this came out, I had this in my pocket and I pulled it out and said, "This is the most powerful reporter's notebook ever invented." My students, whenever I pull this out, they're like, "It still works?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can still play Doodle Jump and Temple Run and a couple games. You can't connect to the internet. The camera is probably the worst feature of it." It's exact opposite of where we are now today with like something like the 13 Pro Max, where you've got basically a Bolex lens with, a wide, extra wide, a wide and a tele lens there, on the ability to do amazing cinematography, documentary journalism and photojournalism and broadcast radio reporting, whatever you want to do. It's the same stream. It's flowing from the same glacier. It's coming down different sides of the mountains for me and for others, but the camera and the way that visual storytelling works has always captivated me. I've also had a career, as Holly mentioned, as a newspaper editor. I've worked for 3 Pulitzer Prize winning newsrooms. If you believe it or not, I used to have a desk job. I used to be the news editor for visuals at the Chicago Sun-Times. I edited the front page with the editor-in-chief every day. I had a blast, but I do miss the camera. And I think when I left, I had the opportunity to go into some different areas. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit of that journey. By the way, when you were looking at this graphic and you're wondering, oh, that's a mind map. Oh, mobile journalism. It's pink. Well, it's actually something maybe not pink, but it's 12 chapters. That's my book. So if you really want to know more, that's one easy way to find out. There's a book there that it kind of examines and explores all these areas that I'm talking about. What's interesting to me is that I'm actually finally able to give this talk to a US audience, or at least to an institute that's based in the US. Normally, I'm only giving it in international venues. I just gave it in the International Journalism Festival in Perugia, and I do it as part of the US speaker program with US embassies, like in Singapore, for example. So this is a nice little gift bag they gave me. And it's a really wonderful program. I really love the US speaker program. They find you, you can't find them. It's kind of interesting. We can talk about it someday. Now, listen, I just want to take you somewhere maybe you've never been. And just remind you that, even if you're on holiday in Iceland and the volcano erupts, it doesn't mean you stop being a journalist. It means you can engage your mobile journalism. And here's what I mean.
The volcano is called Fagradalsfjall, and this is our third visit to this monster. It's amazing how close we've been able to get. In fact, in previous visits, we were able to get a lot closer. In May, you could stand on this hill right across from the eruption, but that got covered over by the first lava flow. And then tourists and journalists were allowed to stand on the second hill. Well, here we are only 9 days later, and that is all out of bounds because the side of the mountain has exploded out of the southeast side, making new rivers of lava coming to surround this area. Over here, it has now crossed through the valley on the trail that we used to reach those previous locations. It's down in now a lower area where it's about a 10 or 12-minute walk for tourists who can come up to the edge of the glowing hot lava.
So to get to the experienced viewpoint, we're following the markers indicated by the Icelandic Red Cross. They're all marked in sequence. Just follow the orange posts and you'll be at a lookout point. See the lava fields and the eruption.
This is about as close as I'm going to get to fiery rock, but I am going to go into slow-mo mode and try for a little camera move. Fagradalfjall. 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 Barbie Mafia.
So that was just one day's final report after we'd already made some daily reports doing Mojo from Iceland. There's a whole Mojo trek. If you look at the hashtag Mojo trek on YouTube, you will find a lot of these stories. So pay attention to the blonde woman in all of those scenes. She's a journalist here with Axel Springers. That's my wife. That's Yurdis. And she's crazy for the outdoors. So she's kind of the engineer behind a lot of the adventure travel that you see in my courses and books and workshops as a way to test what is and what isn't possible in the extreme with mobile journalism. If you looked at what I was filming, this is where I filmed that piece to camera. It's high above the lava field. The eruption is happening. And like we said, we couldn't get there easily as we had a week before. We had to hike 2.5 hours each way to get to this location. When 60 Minutes went to do an Iceland eruption story, they sent probably 4 or 5 people, a crew. They rented Arctic trucks, they rented helicopters, drones, everything that you don't necessarily actually need to tell that story. And it's cool television, don't get me wrong. It's fun if you've got the budget, but if you don't, and a lot of people don't, Mojo can be your friend. And guess what? I'm sitting there with an iPhone 6S Plus with an anamorphic lens, just like a Hollywood filmmaker would ask for an anamorphic lens. And I've got a little wireless mic and everything fit in that backpack. That waterproof Ortlieb backpack. The Germans make really great waterproof gear. So when you're looking for that, I recommend. And the crazy wife who will make you hike there. And you get the moment in the rain, as you saw. And this was the tech. The iPhone 6S Plus. In this case, it was an iPhone 11 or 12. Can't remember. And her iPhone mini. Those were the camera gear. That's all I needed. I edited the story on the plane ride back to Berlin from Reykjavik. on my phone. Yes, on my phone. I know you probably don't believe me, so let me just switch here out and show you. This is LumaFusion. This is the project. This is the edit. Once it's on my phone, I can also airdrop it to an iPad, so I can then fine tune it. But the idea that I can report and edit and share in almost real time without any delay, without anyone else telling you what to do, or causing delays or friction or turning you off of the storylines, is a superpower that mobile journalism unlocks. And that's what keeps me going as I look through, let's say rejoin the presentation. Because this journey started, again, I showed you my camera from 1986 when I was a journalism student. Yes, I actually live in Berlin. Yes, that's Checkpoint Charlie. Okay. People wonder, because you're an American, how can you live in Berlin? Just remember, I have the German wife. Okay. The crazy German wife. She's crazy for the outdoors. This is the Smart Film School. This is the room that I'm in right now. It's brand new. We just built it. This is the first event. It's all based around lightweight, low-cost tech in a small space. I'm using an iPhone 6 here, also as an overhead camera. I'm controlling all the shots. I've programmed all the macros there into a Stream Deck. So I'm looking at 8 different screens here to see you all and present to you in broadcast quality. And I can do this when I'm teaching. I can do this when I'm consulting or when I'm recording new tutorials for the mobile journalism course or any of the other courses at the Smart Film School. Mobile journalism is a deep dive course. It takes about 6 weeks. There's more than 120 tutorials, 33 modules. It's a big deep dive. It's a certificate level course. I also teach documentary film and innovation design methods, because again, that's what I did. I did a lot of work in newspapers designing new news products for young readers. Does that sound familiar? And going into special topics like 360 cameras and things more for broadcasters or for creatives who want to do stories for marketing or for other types of maybe non-editorial work. And I've been lucky to build these programs with some really top broadcasters like the Middle East Broadcast Network, with universities in the UK and elsewhere, and really combine that with the in-person training where it all comes together. So the hybrid model of training is nothing really new. Mojo's not really new. This lecture's not really new. It just keeps getting revised on a continuous basis. Here's the slide deck from 2007 when I gave it at the Canadian, and get this, Canadian Newspaper Association. It's now the Canadian News Media Association, in 2007 in Winnipeg. And it was called Web TV is Not Television. And it featured this new thing called YouTube and some examples. Okay. But I was still focusing on what small cameras could do and how we were experimenting, like in using it even before the phone came out. And then when the phone came out by 2011, we were starting to work with Radio Free Europe, training hundreds of correspondents in Tbilisi, in Prague, in Moscow, and in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, believe it or not. I was teaching Mojo with iPhone 4, with Android S4 models, and still editing on the laptop. Editing really didn't happen on the phone. Really, video was still kind of dodgy, but you could do great photos, and you could get fast results out. By 2017, this presentation you're having today got a new headline. Remember, I used to write headlines for a living. I used to do page 1. Became smartphone to silver screen. Because I'd had an epiphany. I was like, look, this work is just improving. There's obviously a destination for this, and that is big screens, theatrical presentation of work that is done with small cameras. It's an absurd goal to pursue, but it was an interesting idea. Here I am presenting it from my iPad on a 90-foot LED wall in Cairo, right off of Tahrir Square. Look, if you want to get good at Mojo, it's not about the tech. The tech is only going to get better. It's never going to go back. Technology does never march backwards. So the key is to understand the language behind the tech. They understand the language of filmmaking. That's why I love to teach this language to journalists, because once you understand the language, then you begin to write but you have to, like with any language study, you have to learn how to write it, right? You have to learn how to read it, you have to learn how to speak it, and you have to learn how to listen to it. And because I had this experience, because just marrying a German is not good enough to be qualified to live in Germany full time. You have to study the language. You have to study the language to the B1, the B1 level, right? So ich hatte in der Schule Deutsch gelernt, you know, I studied German, and this German way of learning kind of affected my brain when I was building all these tutorials for the Smart Film School. And it really, you know, studying filmmaking, figuring out the edges in extreme travel of what types of stories you can do, what works, what doesn't, and teaching journalists around the world. I really realized that what I was teaching were a lot of text-centric journalists, which a lot of journalists are. They're thinking about their story. They're thinking about the words they're going to write. Mojo kind of flips the script on you and says, like, no picture, no story. So we start out by learning how to report in pictures as a photojournalist, then working with shots as a filmmaker, and then learning how to write with those pictures like an editor, and then writing to those pictures like a scriptwriter. And that process is powerful. That allows you to do things when you can practice it every day, because the phone is in your pocket, the tech is always there, the apps are either free or low cost. Really, the reason for your illiteracy is not the tech. It's the loss of language. That's powerful, to be able to write with pictures and then be able to write to pictures. Whether you have a voiceover or you have text over video. By the way, text and sequences, stories, news stories told like this are not something that were invented in the social media age. In fact, they were invented about 100 years ago by a company called Kinograms. So whenever you see a silent newsreel, or maybe there's music playing, that's unrelated, remember kinograms, cinema writing. It was an old technique. It was what was playing in everyone's movie theater 100 years ago on Saturday mornings. People have got their news with title cards and sequences. Anyways, that's the professor part. What's the fun part is figuring out how your personal mobile journalism, what are you interested in? Where are you interested? How are you interested in telling those stories? I've shown you that you can do it while you're on holiday. You can go into that mode if you have the language. And during the pandemic, there was a period during the summer where there were a few weeks where you could travel. And so we decided to travel to Copenhagen on bicycle, because my wife's crazy and I have the pictures to prove it. And what I mean by that is, by bicycle, it's a 21-day, it's 700 kilometers. And you know what? That sounds like a crazy idea. Guess what? Yesterday, the BBC announced that they have a bicycle bureau now. 2 correspondents have a cargo bike, they've got a solar panel, and they basically have a pop-up television broadcast studio on an e-bike that is roaming around the cycle paths of Holland, okay? A place where that makes sense. And so Mojo in the bike lane is a thing. Thank God the BBC validated, because I've been pursuing this crazy idea for about 10 years. If you want to see my example from a few years ago, the research I did on that 21-day tour, you understand, all I had was my phone with me and a couple of little cameras, a little 360 camera, and not much else. And here it is. If you go to that link, you'll find that report. And basically, it's a WordPress blog. I was updating it every day. So as the journey progressed, you'll see there's little videos, there's photo montages, there's whole kinds of multimedia, everything that's kind of a case study of what can be done with Mojo if you don't have the BBC's budget. You've just got a waterproof bike bag, you've got a tent, and you've got a German touring bike, and you've got a crazy wife, okay? So it's an opportunity to say, what type of story do you want to tell? If the tech really doesn't matter, everyone's got the same pencil, what stories do you want to write? That's the thing. You know, what do you want to, are you interested in doing interviews? Are you a really good interview? Or you want to be? Do Mojo, make that your thing. Are you really interested in travel stories? Do that. Are you interested in documentaries? Do that. Do short form documentaries. You don't have to be locked into the formats of television and their time codes. Okay. So take a ride, show a process, explain something. These are how I organize a lot of my trainings and my workshops and my courses, is that's what I teach you how to do. Because once you understand that these are kind of like Lego pieces, you can tell all different types of stories in all types of situations, even when you didn't plan on it. Now, I'm just curious, does anybody here know who Lynn Sweet is? Lynn Sweet is a Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times. My old pal, because remember, I used to work at that newspaper. I just visited her a few weeks ago. Listen, Lynn was on a holiday with her sister in Chicago. She was visiting her sister and went to a parade, and it turned into a mass shooting event. So she carries one phone. I think there's a question of like, how many phones do you carry on a routine? I carry one phone. I just carry the phone. It's only when we can talk about equipment in just a minute. But so Lynn here, unprepared, it's breaking news scene, just used her phone. And I asked her about it a couple of weeks later, and I said, tell me what happened.
Without a charged phone, you got nothing. And you take pictures first and decide what you want to do with them later. And if you could stomach it, you just take a picture. You just take pictures. And one other thing, when you asked me, did anyone stop me? Is I was in the middle of a shooting scene. The last thing but here's the thing: you don't go up and shoot a close up.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a professional camera, I could have, with a real long lens, I could have gotten more, but I didn't because I was just there. The iPhone is where Mark has her when you could still be a distance, and you know better than anyone because you are like a father of iPhone recording. When you do close up on an iPhone, you could still do a pretty good job.
You can do a pretty good job. And I really thank Lynn for sharing, that scene. It was pretty emotional. But here's the thing, if that's happening, and you're a journalist, it's your job to document the news. It's safely, be safe about it, be sensitive. But it's your job to document those details. It's not your job to decide necessarily as the reporter whether those will be published or not. That's a separate decision. It may not ultimately be yours. It was ultimately not hers. And how the paper did it, that's a whole nother story. But your job is to gather evidence and details of nonfiction events that are happening in real time. And your smartphone, as I said before, is the most powerful reporter's notebook ever invented. And photographic documentation is one of the most powerful forms of that it can do, but it's not the only. It can happen to you where you're at a scene and there's some soccer hooligans that are drinking in your favorite park, like here in Berlin, and you notice, hey, the police are hanging around, and suddenly the sun goes down and you're talking to your friends and the scene turns something like this. So with the new phones, anything with the A15 Bionic chip or better has the ability to record in what's called ProRes mode. Think of ProRes as your secret weapon for filming night photography scenes, indoors, and without a crew, without lights. Okay, it's your new secret weapon for Mojo is ProRes. And you can access it from the settings, in camera mode, but that will be the highest version of ProRes. What's interesting to note is if I go into lecture mode here, there are a few different versions of ProRes, okay? Not to get too technical, not to freak you out, but by default, Apple will give you ProRes 422 HQ. So if you enable that in your settings, that's going to record 610 megabits per second, which means it's going to fill up your phone fast. You don't understand. The point is for Mojo 422 proxy, which is 4 times less data and less storage on your phone, gives you that same superpower. but you can only access that through a special app like Filmic Pro, or in my case, I like to use Beastcam these days because it doesn't have a subscription. So until Apple gives us that ability to shoot in 422 proxy, this is still accessible, and maybe you can just limit how much you shoot and still get that ProRes. You see, I'm able to slip the phone out of my pocket. Again, like Lynn, I'm in a scene where news is breaking, and I'm able to film with close proximity to the police, the German police, in the scene without being detected, without causing attention or putting myself in harm's way. That's a superpower for Mojo, and that's something that's available to almost everyone these days if you have the language that we're talking about. So going back to the presentation, and we can just kind of dip in and out. I just want to show you just another short scene, maybe just another short scene here, where you can get a film, okay, and get some ideas. This has an interview in it. There are many places to go ziplining in Southeast Asia, but the Gibbon experience in Laos is one of the most exhilarating, with some of the tallest and longest zip lines in the world.
Very nice.
Ta-da!
And you're not going to be staying alone in the treehouse. There's really no private rooms other than the bathroom, which of course is open air. Our group has travelers from Latvia, the United Kingdom, Germany, and America. And of course, this American was not alone. I found a fellow Chicagoan on this venture.
I'm here just to explore the world and have fun. Zipline, mostly zipline. We've been deep in the rainforest in Laos, and we're at the Gibbon experience. We've been in the tallest treehouse in the world, and we've been ziplining around the jungle for the last 2 days. That's my drone fell from the tallest treehouse in the world. So I had the downward vision positioning system off, but the side sensors were still on, and I tried to take off from inside the treehouse. And it got very confused because there was wood and trees on both sides of it. So I tried to back up, I tried to move sideways, and all the controller commands were overridden, and it crashed into a tree. We have it on video, but it fell all the way to the bottom of the tree. And miraculously was intact and flying this next day. The great thing, I have a Mavic Pro, and the wings fold in, so it hit branches on the way down, and the wings absorbed some of the impact, and it luckily landed upside down, so the gimbal, it was fine. It was the luckiest thing ever.
Lives to fly another day. And where will the drone go next after this adventure?
Next, we're gonna go to Thailand, the Philippines, and then Bali. So should get some more good nature shots.
The guides will zip in the morning to provide a hot breakfast, hot water for tea and coffee, and even hot chocolate.
So zip lining in Laos, not a typical situation where you can expect to take large gear. In fact, you're restricted to a 22-liter small backpack. And then you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, if I have this much room in my backpack for filmmaking gear, what goes in the bag? So if we were all together in the room, I would ask you what's in the bag, and we'd pull some things out. Somebody might say, oh, you had a little tripod and you had a way to attach your phone to the tripod. Ding, bing, 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 bing. You get a gold star. That's exactly right. Oh, you did an interview. Did you have a microphone? Yes, I did. Bing, 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 bing. A very small little shotgun microphone. If you go to robbmontgomery.com/gear, that has all the answers to all your hardware questions. Okay. Because I put all these little kits that I show for the different adventures I've done over the years in there. And then you need, of course, the right cables. And this is always one of those issues, the right cables that will connect that microphone to your particular phone that you have to test before you go ziplining into the treehouse. The thing that nobody really guesses, did you have a GoPro? Yes, we had a GoPro. We had a chest mount harness. We used it on my wife. Remember the crazy lady, blonde? And we also strapped it to the backpack, which was the last shot. So we got creative with it. This was probably the most valuable behind next to the power banks. We had two power banks, phones. This was probably the most powerful piece of gear I brought. Does anybody know what this is? This is an SD card reader to Lightning. This allowed us to get other shots, contributions from the people we had just met on this adventure. These are not people that we had planned to go with. We had no idea who these people were. We all had the common experience of discovering the jungle and the treehouse together. And of course, they had cameras. So that allowed their shots to come in to this report. So it was collaborative. It's another aspect of Mojo that happens a lot. It's really cool. I'm looking over at the chat. We've got people from Bangladesh, from Ghana. Oh my gosh, from everywhere. It's really amazing, very international. And that's pretty much the way it is with me these days. As you can see, we've already been to Iceland. We've been into the jungles. You've been into to the fun streets of Berlin. And it just never ends. Look, here's when you look at that story, and we can look at the edit in LumaFusion. It's really confusing. People think, okay, now I've done my shots. Now I need to go into my video editing app. And I'm like, no, you have to kind of have a plan. An app will only help you execute a plan. It won't find it for you. There's no AI for this, really, that works. There's very few people understand that there's like 3 main video tracks and 3 main audio tracks. And deciding where to put those pieces of your reportage, your Mojo, into is one of the keys. And then also understanding how to work with each individual aspect to get the best quality. That's what raises the quality for everything. It doesn't matter what camera I have. It does not matter what microphone I have. It does not matter because I have the language. And once you have that language, it does not matter. You're just thinking about story, story, story. How can I improve this lane of information to be better? How can I improve this lane of information to be better? And then where's my beginning, where's my middle, and where's my end? And that's about as simple as I can make it. Where it goes from there is a very creative experience. Of course, apps are your helpers. Of course, having some gear helps. It just raises the production values, but it will not make the story for you. Okay. This is my phone. I have a screen dedicated to Mojo. One pane is all about Mojo. If you hold your phone up to my QR code there, you'll get my contact information. For those of you who were asking for it, it's there. That's an app. It's a free app. And I tell reporters, it's great. Get it. Because when I'm out in the street and people ask me and they see what I'm doing, they're like, do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a book? Do you have this? Yeah, scan. I just have this. They can scan it. So you can have 4 different identities with the Hi Hello app, 4 different cards. One of them I have is for street. So when I'm out there finding stories, because I do a lot of field work, that's where I find my stories. I'm with the street musicians, the street artists, the police, whatever, the protesters, I'm there. I'm on my bike. I'm present. People want to contact me or I need to follow up and get their contact information. That's number 1. So that has nothing to do with video, right? If you look at some of the other apps there, these are all secondary apps, the second row. Those are all like, okay, I double take app allows me to record the front camera or allows me to record 2 out of the 4 cameras of my phone. And I can record them either as 2 independent video files or as picture in picture or a split screen or any option. It's awesome. I love that. So a lot of broadcast journalists like that for the work that they're doing. Pianoscaper is a way to create, and then I can screen capture and record it, ambient music, copyright free, no problems with YouTube. Groovebox is the same, except for this is going to be a little bit more beat centric music. So something that's a little bit more upbeat. What's that? Chartific lets me create simple bar charts, right? For stills. Insta360 is for controlling the 360 camera, which is when you see, I used a lot with the Berlin to Copenhagen storytelling. The main apps I use are all on the bottom. So they're always there. I need my native camera. I need access to my photo albums. I need LumaFusion to edit video. And when I need to access that ProRes mode, I want to go into BeastCam. And I've got a preset already made. So when there's breaking news or on night shots or interiors, I've got it. Here's literally a page from my book where I detail all of the apps. There's a picture there where you can see that double take app where I used it on the Berlin to Copenhagen story, where I've selected 2 cameras there. It's mounted to the handlebars of my bicycle. I'm going to skip past this. This is a scene where I actually show the double take app. Well, maybe we'll just play it real quick.
And this place is called the Bürgermeister, which means mayor in German. And of course, this is not the mayor's office of Berlin, but we're going to find out if they have a good cheeseburger. So while I'm waiting for my cheeseburger, let's take a look at this building, which was obviously built as a toilet. There's the women's side. There's the men's side. Mena. But the only men inside here are making burgers. That's it. There's my burger. Du bist ein Bürgermeister. Dankeschön. I had to say it. I had to say it. Very cool.
So a nice little quick turnaround, something can be done literally over lunch, using the double take app. It's a fun little app. I just like to show reporters and teach the journalists to just use the split screen and use the forward facing camera and the rear facing camera. And just do a walkthrough type story like I did there and narrate some clips. And then, you can replace any of those panes with other information. As you saw, I replaced one with a title card at one point. I replaced another one with the screen video recording that I made of my Google Maps to show where I was in Berlin. And it's just a fun creative exercise. So double take is a fun one to explore if you've never heard of it or thought about it in a journalistic purpose. Don't ask me about TikTok, people. Ask people under the age of 20. And here's why. You do not want to ask middle-aged journalism consultants about TikTok because of this. Here you go.
Whilst I can do one. My trick also is to hold down the red button and let go when you want to stop filming. That is the best way to get it slick. Okay, let's go. Ignore my mum.
Okay, I mean, I could break it down for you as a filmmaker, what she's doing are what's called lens wipes, okay? But it's just so much fun to explore this with your phone, right? So TikTok is not what I'm going to get into, because anything that pops up like TikTok, if you have the fundamentals, if you have the language, then you can tell really powerful stories. And really, that's what I hone in on. And that's why I'm working with organizations, big news organizations, international ones that want this and want this for their teams, that look, you need to give everyone kind of the basic A1s, the A1 level of Mojo, so that you can then break off specialists to do lives and social media stuff. And then you have a couple of VJs that are your disaster, your breaking news, your war correspondents, that you can just drop that person in with a fixer in the field into any location of the world, and it'll just give you incredible scenes, incredible moments. And you don't need a whole newsroom of VJs, okay? You just need this. You have to have the foundation. It's not about the tech. It's about the technique, the French version of technique. The German version of technique is gear. The French is the art. So that's why these days, of course, I train a lot of people in the fundamentals, but it's really fun to work with people who each of these people only makes 4 hours of television a year. They do current affairs programming in Singapore. They are at the top of their pyramid. Okay. And they wanted to know how Mojo can work with their workflows. They're able to hire crews. They can tell stories from anywhere in the world. They have $250,000 to $500,000 budgets for every show they produce. And they wanted to know where it's smart and where it makes sense. So we workshopped that. That is new. The Bike Bureau, the BBC is getting Mojo going in the cycle lane. You can get going for less than $100 when you want to upgrade your stability of your phone, of your shots, without a gimbal, without batteries, and you want to upgrade the audio quality without a lot of tech. Okay. So we've got links to share, guys, but we've only got maybe 15, 20 minutes to go. And I just wanted to come in back to something that brings this full circle, the smartphone to video screen, because I've been making a lot of these example videos for my students, for teaching and learning about where the edges are and what types of stories we can do. And then a few years ago, I started to submit them to some film festivals here and abroad, and they started, winning prizes. And I won Best Foreign Short Documentary at a festival called LA Live, Hollywood. It wasn't even about mobile films. It was Best Foreign Short Documentary for a film called Sophie Sutton, filmed here in Berlin. It's completely in English. Gotta love Americans. So look for opportunities like that. The woman is Welsh. She speaks English the whole time. Anyways, it's a foreign film because it was shot in Berlin. Hilarious, right? Here's one called Ice Swimming. This was a result of training all of these journalists over a week in Helsinki. This is the Nordic Press Association. These 21-year-old journalists created something that didn't exist. There was no Nordic Press Association, or at least nothing called Nordic Press Association, that was interested in doing contemporary storytelling. That's me in the middle. We did ice swimming the first day. That was their icebreaker. Get it? They're funny people. I love them. Here's what resulted at the end of the week.
I have never been ice swimming before, and I would never have imagined that I would do something like this. Actually, stepping into the ice pool was a crazy experience where you sort of get this kind of oceanic feeling and sensation of being one with nature, and also all the endorphins released. I actually thought I might faint or pass out. And then you watch all the Finnish people, they just dive in, go for a swim, maybe every day, then back into the sauna. It's inspiring. Then afterwards, you can have a swim in the warmer pool, and surrounded by all the fog and people swimming and watching the beautiful light of the sky in Helsinki, especially watching the sunrise. Gives you a spark and kind of prepares you to go out and take over the world.
So that little film, was it maybe 92 seconds, right? It was kind of just an accidental film. It was like we were teaching all of the fundamentals to this group. And at the end, I had this sequence together, and I went to the girl, the woman who was featured there, and one of the journalists. And I said, "Look, you said your mom would be proud of you for doing this. You come from Denmark. Can I just have you do a voiceover to the pictures? In other words, my pictures are now going to interview you." I'd never done that before. Mojo unlocks new ways of thinking because there's no limitations. You're looking at a sequence and you're like, you know what? I could do a voiceover. I could do the traditional broadcast thing. Do you know what? Or I could ask you to write a script and you will go through and you'll make it very methodical. But I wanted something that was a little bit more immediate. And my sense was that if it was immediate, it might have some more emotional quality, and it worked. So I just had the edit there on my iPad, you know, just like this. And I said, okay, go in and I'm going to put you into voiceover record mode. And if you don't mind, just go in and give me a voiceover record. And so there it is. There's her voiceover. And she just recorded what she saw and what she remembered of the moment. It was very much exactly the pictures interviewing her. And what it unlocked was that performance. You can't foresee that. That just happened. And then she left on her plane and said bye. And I looked at what she got and I played with it. And I was like, oh, all I have to do is just make a couple small adjustments and it's done. And then I submitted it to a film festival. And that was the idea that led to that film winning multiple film festivals, including my hometown now of Berlin, where I was treated with roses, red carpet, champagne, award ceremony, acceptance speech, and a shiny golden scary bird. Great. I don't need any more journalism awards at this point in my career, right? I did this as a way of proving the concept that yes, you can do powerful work with small cameras. You can even edit it on your phone. You don't have to think it has to go through an official process to get the results. And I thought, well, that's great for me. What about my students? What about the people I care about wanting to get this knowledge and own this language? We need our own awards program. So I reached out to some high-placed people like at the Ohio University, the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism, to the chair there, to the chair of a few other journalism schools I had been working with. I said, look, let's create something. We have zero budget. I have a nonprofit. I founded Visual Editors in 2004. We can use that. We can take donations and we can, you know, get sponsors and we can make something. And they said yes. And I said, the idea was that we would do screenings around the world. Well, then the pandemic hit. But we were able to get sponsors like Rode and Shure and Moondog Labs and IK Multimedia and others. And I was able to recruit judges, mostly female judges, I want you to point out. Again, international. So it's an international awards program from this very start. We've got a 10-point criteria for the judges to look at the work that the selected work that they're judging. There's a rubric, and we've got season 4 now, the finalists, and I want to show maybe one or two of those films, time permitting. I think I will show, there's 3 categories, so you can check it out. It's on Film Freeway. So that's how this rabbit hole, this research, going on crazy travel adventures with a decidedly crazy woman, figuring out how to bring the smallest gear to tell the biggest stories, kind of gets you into this mode where suddenly you're, you know, thinking about film festivals. Okay, maybe you're not thinking about film festival, but why not? Why not have some of your short features appear on cinema screens in your hometown? Is there really anything stopping you? I don't think there is. Let's look at some of the finalists. We've got 3 categories from season 4. And if you want to see the previous seasons, they're all on the Smart Film School. There's the Mojo Awards, you'll find it. So this year we had 6 finalists. I want to show a couple. I want to show you, I definitely want to end with Beneath the Lonesome Sky, which is shot by an Australian journalist named Rob Layton in Scotland. And I want to show you the organ builders. So basically the three categories: mobile journalism, story. This can be any type of Mojo. It could be a TikTok, it could be a vertical, it could be a 360 story, it could be a news package, it could have drones, it doesn't matter as long as it's not made with big cameras, okay? Can be features, can be news, can be travel, human interest, whatever. It's kind of a broad category. Typical example is like a finalist we see here.
Hier kratzt ein bisschen F.
If the F scratches, then it needs to be planed. Organ builder Hendrik Sebald grabs the pipe and carefully planes off some of the metal edge with some kind of an oversized pencil sharpener. The tone becomes minimally higher as a result. The organ builders don't have much time left. In just under a week, the organ is to be consecrated. And in the Church of St. Konrad in Landshut, it doesn't look very festive yet. About 1/5 of the 3,150 pipes made of wood and metal still have to be installed and tuned. To design and build such an instrument in all its complexity, it's one thing. Specialized tuners like Bernd Reinhardt are responsible for the final timbre, the character of the organ and its effect in the church interior, with musicality and a lot of feeling.
Unsere Arbeit ist das, was ein Dirigent macht, der mit dem Orchester arbeitet.
So you can see that some of those camera shots, when you talk with broadcasters, like, oh, I could never get a camera in that close. We just can't get that with the bigger camera. So the idea is that it's nimble and smaller cameras. So that was an example from Germany. In crisis reporting, now this was a category that came into light last year with the rise of the Ukraine-Russia war. But crises happen large and small. This year it was about a crisis. The finalist is about a water crisis in Morocco. Again, we'll be showing this at a special event. And on the last one, I just want to end with a nice little documentary, because if you think about documentaries, kind of the highest point of the smartphone to silver screen arc, a nonfiction subject between 2 and 12 minutes. It has to be accurately reported using journalism ethics, but it also can be creative and it really embrace, the art of filmmaking. So let's see what's going on. This is Under the Lonesome Sky, and it happens in Skye, Scotland.
There is an atmosphere about the place that draws you to it. And once it gets under your skin, it doesn't let go, you know. You speak to any of the locals and they believe in fairies. Well, I have dived in the tropics. I prefer what I find in these waters. These creatures are just on our doorstep within easy reach of the shoreline in 2 or 3 foot of water. And for me, it's just raising awareness to get protection. I've learned to see so many of these creatures, and some of them are no bigger than the end of my fingertip. And every single one of them is beautiful in its own right. Sea hares are a form of sea slug. They're really charismatic, very, very funny creatures. And despite being a slug, they've got eyes, so they can see you.
They've got eyes so they can see you. I'm going to leave you there and tease you. There's a little bit more, but what was really intriguing about that, right, was all the underwater filmography, the videography. Robb's specialty, his brand of Mojo is not in a bicycle. It's with underwater photography. Robb lives off the coast of surfing paradise in Australia. A lot of his stories happen at sea. So that is an encouraging thing. And I hope this has inspired you. Let's look at some of the questions. There's 8 open questions. Shernay, you asked, thank you. You mentioned that mobile journalism is more popular outside the US. I don't think I said that. Why do you think it's not more mainstream here in the US? I don't live in the US, so I don't know. Sorry to be short about that, but why isn't it is really what I should be asking. Natalie, when it's question time, I'd love to know how you edit this. Natalie, welcome to my iPad. What you're seeing here, look, now you're seeing my hands, okay? This is the overhead cam. This is every story that I've recorded over the last maybe 8 years. I've got hundreds. Here's the treehouse. Which story I'm not sure you're talking about, but here's the treehouse. This is what I'm talking about, is that you can do it without necessarily a lot of complexity. You can do a bicycle story that's just one shot. This is done with one shot. Okay, now I ride a bike every day, so your skill level depends on your safety. But I'm safe here. I'm in the bike lane. And I'm telling a story during the pandemic of when this street went pedestrian only, or in this case, bike and pedestrian only. It's a big street in Berlin called Friedrichstraße. And as an experiment, I just happened upon it while I was shopping, okay? So I'm ABD. That's the rule with mobile journalism, is always be documented. You don't know. You don't know if it should be documented as photo and video. There's no right answer. I know that's another question, how you decide. Maybe that's a mistake you make. Sometimes you say, I just photographed that, but I really should do a video of it. Okay, just go back and cycle and go back and do take 2. Okay, maybe do both is the right answer for that. I'm going to try your name, Tibusiki Samuel. Thank you. Which type of phone is best for that? And which software can I use on my phone to edit video? You're in Uganda. Thank you. For broadcasters, we kind of see more and more that everyone's standardizing on the iPhones, and the reasons are pretty simple. It's a very from model to model, from year to year, it's a very stable platform. The ecosystem is quite possible, but it really doesn't matter as long as you find models of Android phones that work with maybe software like VN or with LumaFusion. LumaFusion now also works with Android devices. VN is free, so you can try that one. People like Adobe Rush. The thing about Mojo is like there's no one right answer. Software come and goes, apps come and go. The technique, the art that I'm talking about stays. The language stays, but only, like any foreign language, only if you use it. So that's one thing. And there's really no excuse because you've got this thing with you. Okay, you've got a Stradivarius in your pocket, and I'm trying to teach you how to play some music with it. And I encourage you to find the music. William Hamp, thank you. Could you give us some ideas of how to shoot on location when the final, when the final delivery will need to be seen in both portrait and landscape? So you're talking about, exactly. So like when you talk with broadcasters and they've got to shoot once and publish on many different platforms and many different lengths of the video, you always have to shoot horizontal. You can always take vertical frames and build vertical edits out of a horizontal video, but you really don't want to put vertical video on television or on the big screen. So I skipped over it. I have an example in my lecture about that. If you look up something called Very Large Telescope on my YouTube channel, you'll see I have an example there of same story, and it's presented and edited in 2 different ways, but it's the same shot, same sequence, same script. Proves the point. Okay. And so that's what broadcasters do, is they shoot horizontal and they'll cut vertical. What are the major elements of mobile journalism, and how can I go through scripting, and should I prepare a script? Scripted videos or scripted filmmaking is an option if that's what you're comfortable doing. It's not a requirement. There's no rule that you have to write a script. If you do, that's fine. That's great. Let me just show you. I think I showed you, maybe I didn't get this far in the presentation, but it looks a little bit like this on when I did the news package during the pandemic on my bike around Berlin doing a report. So I did this for a broadcast client. So it means you have to write a script and you have to say, what are the video elements? What's the voiceover? What's the setup? In other words, what's the presenter or host going to say as they introduce the clip? And then you're editing your timeline based on, that script. So is that the kind of script writing that doesn't change? Okay. That's television. That doesn't change. If you know how to do that, that's great. Mojo is not going to get in your way. Mojo is just a complementary. It's another layer. It's another mode you can go into. It doesn't replace what you're doing if you're doing traditional television. It just enhances or gives you new superpowers to get better, nonfiction reporting. Let's see what else is going on there. Oh, so that was the story. What else is going on? Can I share a list of gears that one can invest in? Number 2, can you recommend that one can dedicate one phone for Mojo alone? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. To kind of, I don't say necessarily that, I just make sure I have a Mojo screen that doesn't have my Candy Crush apps or my WhatsApp on it. It's just everything for reporting. Yeah, does that make sense? You can dedicate a phone. It doesn't even have to be a late model one. Like I said, I've got a phone that's dedicated. Where has it gone to? That I used in Iceland, that I had in a rig. I've got a special lens on it, gives that anamorphic look, gives that kind of documentary feel to it. And so it's an older phone, but it works. It shoots in 4K. It still has a mic jack. It's still damn good in most situations. So that pretty much hopefully brings us to maybe the last question. It looks like there's one last question. How do I handle storage? This is, again, nothing that changes. After I do every tour or every trip, the discipline of coming back and attaching your phone and and basically logging and capturing what you've got never ends, right? So you want to make sure you've got that, you've got your scenes into organized. So that's why I do it while I'm in the field. So I get ahead of that. But my discipline is because I just came back from 42 days abroad. I was actually in the US, in California. I was actually in Washington, D.C., where we thought we might do this live in person, and a few other spots. And, I fill up my phone during that and I have to watch it. But when I came right back to Berlin, the first thing I did was I uploaded my photos into the Photos app. I got all of my clips out and everything was in folders. But because every day I was already editing some scenes together, I can show you what I'm talking about. I was way ahead of the game. So basically I had already, got my Bryce Canyon, my Grand Canyon, at 5:30 in the morning with fresh snowfall. I'd already put those shots together. That's my crazy wife. This is what we call the red elf sequence, when she wears her red snow gear or rain gear in this case. Nobody else is there. 6 inches of snow fell 2 days in a row at the Grand Canyon, and we got it because we will get up at 5:30 because we've got couple things happening. I already edited that. I didn't have all the raw footage and just some idea. When I was at the Lincoln Memorial, this is hilarious. I'll end with this. Look at these shots. I was just experimenting with my little 360 camera. I posted this clip, this little test clip. I was trying to put some stuff together. I posted this on social media and I had a reporter from the East Coast say, "How dare you fly a drone at the Lincoln Memorial?" And I said, I didn't. So in places where you can't fly a drone, try the Insta360, attach it to a stick. You can do what I did, attach it to a lighting clamp and attach it to the handlebars of your bicycle and cycle all the way to Copenhagen and tell that story. Do I use any AI tools for Mojo? No, not that I know of. I think the tools, you mean for editing, perhaps? I'm not sure. One thing that seems to be clear is that if you are a Mojo and you have these skills, AI is not going to be replacing you. It seems to be AI proof. Does that make sense? No, no AI is going to hike up to the volcano and give you that human touch. Okay. So I think if you're looking for something that's AI proof, this job is it.
I think that's a wonderful point to end on, Rob. And especially, I love that we started at the volcano. We're going to end with the volcano. Rob, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. You packed so much information into this hour, and I can see why there are deep dive courses. And I think that you've piqued everybody's interest, and we'll share the links to your information in our follow-up email. I want to say thank you all to the guests as well for your great questions and your comments. Lots of interest in the hands-on piece of this, as well as the bigger picture questions. We hope this hour has jump-started your interest in local journalism. We will share a link to the video soon, along with the survey, so you can keep mining the session for guidance. And if you found this program valuable, the National Press Club Journalism Institute is a nonprofit organization. We hope we can count on your financial support to be able to keep providing programs like this one available at no cost to journalists around the globe. Thank you all for being here. Stay well, and we hope that we will see you soon.
Is it time to fade to black?
It is time to fade to black. Yes.
All right, here we go in 3, 2,